My job is to briefly talk about this book, which I'm sure you've all seen, Man and Mangroves, An Environmental Awakening, written by Jerry Chidi. And since a lot has been said already about mangroves, I would not necessarily have to go into the technicalities or the biology of mangrove forest. But it's a book I want to recommend, and I'm sure there will be copies, maybe not this outsized edition. It could be one that you could put in your bag. This one you have to carry on your head or put on your coffee table. But this is a great production, really, really beautiful book. 146 photographs in this, really great photo. I'm going to share some photos with you. Maybe I should just start to do that right away as I describe okay. Yeah. So I'll be sharing with us photographs from some photos from the book. But there are 146 photos. I can't show you all the photos in the few minutes that I have to present this. But the book is really, really extremely important. And I must salute Chidi for the labor that he put into making this possible. The foreword to the book is written by Professor Olariwaju Fagbohun, who is a well-known professor of law, a senior advocate of Nigeria. And then the book itself has sections. There are very brief prose and then poetry in the book. We got some sections talk about the nature of mangroves, mangroves as environmental resources. Then the threats to mangrove are very vital here: overexploitation, oil pollution, biological pollution, and municipal waste. Speaks also about the importance of valuing ecosystems, which is written by a contributor. And then the epilogue to the book is written by Professor Frank Ugiomo. There are 4 pieces of poetry in the book. I wish there were more. I really love poetry because poetry and photography, they go well together. And it's like the pictures are like poetry in, how do I say it now? Solid poetry, almost like architecture is poetry in stone. Now, the mangrove is a very peculiar ecosystem. Mangrove forests have a lot of value to our communities. And the mangrove is not just a collection of, mangrove forest is not just a collection of trees, it's a home. And it's a home not just for humans, it's a home for a variety of species, both aquatic species and others, like the birds, who also find them as excellent places. Now, what makes the mangrove forest very peculiar is a system of roots that they have, roots in the air, aerial roots. Roots, and in some places the roots actually come out of the water pointing upwards, which makes them very unique, and they can be very verdant when they're not disturbed by human activities. And so in the intricate entanglement of the roots, you find beautiful picture. To me, it speaks about the webs of life, how life is all interconnected. You find it here almost every kind of life available in mangrove. And I see that when a fisherman sees the mangrove anywhere, he suddenly sees, he has a picture, a dream, a vision of fishes, a vision of crabs, of oysters, of the dwarf hippopotamus, and maybe even the West African manatee. So this is a very rich ecosystem. And unfortunately, it's an ecosystem that is being overexploited and disturbed. Now, this photograph shows how the roots, the mangroves use the roots to stabilize soils. Now, we should say here that the roots come aerial roofs and stilts for 2 reasons, I would say, as a layman, just looking at the roots and the trees. One, to support the trees as they grow older, to stabilize them, make them not fall away. And secondly, to hold the soil together. So while holding the soil together, the tree is also helping itself, because the soils here are quite, they're not very stable. These are mud flats, and this is a kind of intertidal system where the tides come and go. And then the roots come above the water because when the tides are low, then the mangrove tree breathes through the roots. When the tides are high, of course, they can hold their breath for the period that the water is high. But once the water goes in, I can see them greedily grabbing all the air they can get. And so when um, they learn quite early, just like babies in the riverine areas learn to swim early. The fruits, the seeds from the mangrove float on waters, and they have a sharpened end. So that these are all photographs by Chidi in the book. When they get to a certain point, wherever they find the substrate to grow, they get hooked and they anchor themselves, and then they grow. In this way, mangroves help to stabilize and even create new soils, because they go on the water wherever they can find a little soil, and they begin to grow, then, or they trap other sediments, and then the soil grows. So in a place where you destroy the mangrove, you are actually also destroying the forest and destroying lives at the same time. Now, this is a very beautiful picture. It looks, you could interpret this photograph any way you want, but to me, it's like a lot of, it's like beautiful beads and necklaces. But these are oysters or mangrove roots. And we do know that in areas of parts of the Niger Delta or the coastline of Nigeria where you have mangroves, these are very important parts of the seafoods that we enjoy. Now, Chidi spent over 10 years to produce these photographs in these books, and he covered all the way from Badagry to in the west to Bakassi in the east. He went as far as Lokoja and beyond that along the river Benue. So we have a lot of photographs, and you'll be surprised that when Lagos was growing initially, I'm sure Desmond Majekodunmi will talk more about this. There were a lot of mangrove forests in Lagos because the lagoon provides a kind of sheltered environment that mangroves grow very well. And so that's one of the areas where these mangroves took root. Now, this photograph is a photograph of a lady in a low tidal situation picking isam or periwinkle. And these days, this is not as easy as it used to be because of factors that I'm sure many of us already know about. Now, this looks like a hunting session right here. And I just love the way Chidi captured the roots of the mangrove and then the feet of the women in the mud, in the alluvial mud, in the Chikoko soil, as they search out the seafood that nature brings to us in this particular environment. And it also shows me a picture of how hardworking our women are, and how much more they should have a voice, they should have a say in what happens in developments in our environment. Now, I grew up on this kind of fish. When I grew up, I never used to eat a lot of meat, because in my village, eating meat was just something you could enjoy once in a while, but you could fish from it to area of Akwa Ibom State. This is very, very special. They're using products from the mangrove, both to dry the fish and also to skewer the fish that you can see. And if you like to eat smoked fish, this is where you should go to get some. And I'm happy that Chidi went there. I'm sure he must have enjoyed the fish from under the two bridge. If you get under the two bridge, they're very beautiful, very, I wouldn't say sweet, but it's just. Now, let's get see a bit why the mangroves have been destroyed to a large extent in the Niger Delta. And this is very important, the fact of the destruction of the mangrove in the Niger Delta, because in Niger Delta, as you all know, hosts about 60% of the mangrove forest mangrove forest in Nigeria, 60% in Niger Delta. And this is the biggest mangrove forest in Africa, third largest in the world. Since oil exploration production began in the 50s, 1956, when this well was drilled. This is the first oil well located at Oloibri, and it's now a museum piece, designated as a museum element, but there's nothing really there to tell the story or to say what it was when this was built. But the abandoned oil wells in the Ogbia area of Bayelsa State, in the Oloibri area, they're made out in the bush. It's not as if the wells are dry, just that it became less profitable for the companies to keep scraping the bottom of the barrel. And so they still leak. They still leak in the creeks, in the swamps. Recently, NOSRA told us there are about 5 oil spills every day over the past 2 years. 5 oil spills on the average every day. If you check that in 2 years, there were 1,300 oil spills in the Niger Delta. It's a criminal activity going out there, and it's not mostly by the community people. It's also, of course, the community people doing things like what you can see here, artisanal refining, which SDN just showed us that this is even better. The petrol from the bush refineries, illegal refineries, have been proven to be better, of better quality than the ones that marketers imports from abroad to sell to us in gas stations, which is a sad testimony about how degraded both our environment, our culture, our politics, and our economy has become. Now, this is an oil spill from an oil company. As I said, we have about 5 oil spills every day on the average in the Niger Delta. Millions of barrels of crude oil dumped to the environment. And the shocking thing is that no matter how much oil is spilled, the oil companies the government always manage to record the quantity of oil that they intended to drill or to export on that day, showing that something is wrong with how we treat the oil that we extract in Nigeria. Now, this photograph, I was talking about the mangroves in Lagos. This is from the Lekki part of Lagos. There's still a few left. It's like they tell you stories of what have been lost. That's the way I see this photograph, a picture of what has been lost. And it's such a big shame that we've lost all this because of infrastructure and wetlands that's supposed to soak in the floods in the territory have all mostly been cemented so as to put on structures in the guise of development. Now, Chidi has also in this book some photos that show us before and after scenario. Now, just look at this photograph. This photograph was taken in 2011 in a place in Rivers State. The next one was that's the same location 5 years after. This is what it was in 2011, and this was 5 years later, the same location. Now, this is a tragedy. It's a tragedy of a nation that doesn't quite value its environment. And it's a challenge for us. As Chidi said in the book, his photography is not just to give you aesthetic entertainment, but to challenge you to do something. And I echo what he said. To me, looking through this book has been a big lesson. It's been a big lesson in the fact that we are losing a whole lot, and we have to do something about what we are losing. Now, let me just say what came to my mind when I looked at this particular photo. And I imagine myself as a fisherman. I've been with fishers going to the sea, campaigning on fish, not oil, because fish is more beneficial to any community than crude oil. And we should all actually join that campaign for fish, not oil. Stop oil extraction in Nigeria is not helping the nation. Look at what is going on in NDDC and all that. Now, when every fisherman or every person in Nigeria Delta has a natural pull by the water, by the sea, you want to go out to the sea, you want to enjoy the liberty of floating on the waters, of getting seafood and coming back. Now, when you go, the mangrove is telling you, come back. It's calling you to come back. And as you go into the sea is pulling you. You are looking at the resources, and then you come back. As you come back, you see the mangrove in the distance. You're really feeling happy. You are going home. People are waiting for you. You are going to show what you got. But the fish that you caught out in the sea started here because the mangrove is a nursery where these fish, the juveniles, are bred and raised. And now this picture by Chidi breaks my heart. Not because the adult hand is very old and withered, but because we have to hand over something to our children and generation yet unborn. And protecting the mangrove forest, protecting the mangrove or ecosystem speaks about our sense of responsibility and accountability to generations yet unborn. Our children may not see the mangrove, they may not see the manatee, they may not see the hippopotamus, they may not see the crocodile, they may not see even the tilapia, they may not see even bonga fish if we keep on destroying our ecosystem, either for fuel wood or allowing oil pollution. And let me just say this before I round up. This is the last slide I'm going to show. The mangroves get threatened by oil. I said the mangrove roots are above the water. They breathe when the tide is low. And of course, they hold their breath for a period of time, which is never too much when the tide is high. But when oil spills come on the water, all the pores on the roots of the mangrove get blocked. And so the mangrove suffocates and dies. And that's what is happening. And that affects the economy of the people. And you see these ladies waiting with their buckets of periwinkle. They could do this a couple of years back. In the years to come, if we don't protect the mangrove, these buckets will be empty. And they will look sadder than they look even right now. And so this book, to me, is a book that calls us to do something to restore hope to our people, as well as restoring our environment. So that's a quick, my quick job was to encourage us to get this book and to see the beauty of the book. I just love this book. Chidi, thank you so much for writing this book.